Welcome to the Heartbeat Chronicles, the podcast that delves into the intricate dynamic of love, sex, relationships, lifestyle, journaling, counseling, and therapy, and the messy in between. Get ready to explore the various aspects of life's heartbeat and discover insightful conversations that resonate with you. In today's episode, we're diving into something truly special, the #Hey Soulful Riley segment. This is where I get to connect with all of you, my incredible soulful ambassadors, on a personal level. I'll be answering your heartfelt questions, taking in your requests, and sharing meaningful conversations with you. Whether it's about love, life's ups and downs, or anything in between, this is our space to explore it all together. So let's get into it. Let's dive into our first question of the day. One of our soulful ambassadors asks about helping their partner feel more comfortable discussing intimacy. You know, this is such a common situation, and I'm really glad you're approaching it with such care and consideration. Creating a comfortable space for these conversations is absolutely essential. Think about it like building a cozy little nest where you both feel safe to be vulnerable. The key is to start small and gentle. Maybe begin the conversation when you're both relaxed, like during a quiet evening at home or on a peaceful walk together. One of the most effective approaches I've found is using open-ended questions, but timing them right. Instead of diving straight into deep waters, start with lighter topics about your relationship in general. You might ask something like, "What's your favorite way to spend time together?" before gradually moving toward more intimate subjects. Leading by example can work wonders too. Share your own feelings and desires first. It's like extending an invitation that says, "Hey, it's safe to open up here." And remember, nonverbal cues are just as important as words. A warm smile, gentle touch, or simply giving your partner your full attention can make all the difference. Most importantly, there's no rush. Some people need more time to feel comfortable expressing their desires, and that's perfectly okay. Celebrate the small steps forward, and remember that every tiny bit of progress in communication strengthens your connection. Sometimes just knowing that their partner cares enough to ask and listen patiently is exactly what someone needs to start opening up. You know, soulful ambassadors, I'll be honest. When I first started communicating about intimacy and the things that turned me on, I was terrified. I used to think, if I say this out loud, they'll think I'm some kind of sex freak. And because of that fear, I kept so much bottled up. I'd sit there hoping my partners could somehow read my mind and just know what I wanted. Spoiler alert, that doesn't work. But I remember this one pivotal moment in a past relationship. I decided to test the waters and share a fantasy that had been sitting in the back of my mind. My heart was pounding, and I half expected to be met with judgment or even laughter. Instead, they just smiled. And then, to my surprise, they opened up about their desires. Things I'd never imagined they wanted to try with me. It was like a light bulb moment. That conversation didn't just bring us closer physically, it deepened our emotional connection. We became a team, exploring and celebrating each other without shame or fear. Looking back, I realized that withholding those conversations had kept a wall between me and my partners. But once I knocked it down, I discovered that most people have their own desires, their own curiosities. They're just as afraid of being judged as we are. Communication isn't just about saying what you want. It's about creating a safe space where both of you feel seen, heard, and accepted. Now, I embrace those conversations. I see them as opportunities for intimacy, trust, and even laughter. Because let's be real, vulnerability can be funny too. And the best part, I learned that being honest about what turns me on isn't just brave, it's liberating. So if you're holding back, soulful ambassadors, I get it. But I promise you, when you take that leap, you might just discover a deeper connection than you ever thought possible. And who knows? You might even find out that your partner is waiting for you to open that door too. Our next question comes from a soulful ambassador who's curious about introducing toys into their relationship. You know what? This is such a natural evolution in many relationships, and I love that you're thinking about how to approach it thoughtfully. Timing and context are everything when it comes to these conversations. Instead of bringing it up in the heat of the moment, try finding a neutral, relaxed setting. Maybe you're cuddled up watching Netflix, and a scene sparks a natural segue into the topic. Or perhaps you're browsing online together, and you can casually mention how you've heard about couples exploring new ways to connect. Remember, it's all about framing the conversation positively. Focus on how this is about enhancing what you already share, not fixing anything that's broken. You might say something like, I love our connection and I thought it could be fun to try something new together. Or, I read about how couples use this to explore and deepen their intimacy. If you're feeling nervous, try sharing an article or one of our episodes about couples' experiences with toys. This can help normalize the conversation and give you both a reference point for discussion. The key is keeping things light and playful. There's no pressure, just an invitation to explore together. And here's a pro tip. Start by shopping or browsing together. Make it a shared experience where you both get to voice your comfort levels and interests. This turns what might feel awkward into something fun and connecting, like going on a little adventure together. Remember, giggles and slight awkwardness are totally normal. Embrace them as part of the journey. Let me take you back to my early 20s, when life was confusing, sex education was barely a thing, and I had the sexual self-awareness of a goldfish. So picture this. I was in a relationship, and my partner casually says, "Babe, what do you think about trying toys?" Now, let me tell you, I was shook. My brain spiraled like, what has brought this man to such a conclusion? Why does he want to use toys? Is it me? Am I not enough? And of course, my limited knowledge didn't help either. Back then, in my innocent little mind, toys were reserved for, those people. The ones you'd see in scandalous movies or who lived these wild lives I couldn't even imagine. I honestly thought they were exclusively for porn stars or prostitutes. Normal people like me, with a toy, in my house? No way. Let me just tell you, it was a long night. Long. Because I wasn't just trying to understand him, I was trying to understand myself. I didn't know what pleasure truly meant, let alone how to enhance it. I was still getting to know my own body, my desires, and my boundaries. Looking back, I laugh at how clueless I was. But I also feel for that young version of me because honestly, she didn't have much to work with. And that's the thing. Sex education in Kenya back then, it was more about don't do it and you'll get pregnant or die than anything else. We weren't taught about pleasure, intimacy, or even understanding our own bodies. If podcasts like Heartbeat Chronicles existed back then, I swear I would have been so much better off. Today's Gen Zs, man, I envy them. They have access to conversations like this on podcasts, social media, and platforms like Beducated that normalize sex, pleasure, and self-awareness. If I could go back, I'd tell that younger me, relax, Riley. It's okay to feel weird about this, but let this moment teach you something about communication and exploration in relationships. And now, I'm that person starting these conversations, and I'm so proud to help others learn and grow where I struggled. So yeah, Soulful Ambassadors, I know toys can still feel like a big leap for some of you, and I get it truly. But trust me, once you embrace them as just another way to deepen intimacy, they stop being scary and start being fun. And who doesn't want more fun? Thank you for sharing your struggles with body confidence. It's something that affects so many of us, and being open about it is such an important first step. Let's talk about some practical ways to build that self-love and confidence, especially when it comes to intimacy. Start by noticing how you talk to yourself. Our inner dialogue shapes how we feel more than we realize. Instead of focusing on what you want to change, try appreciating what your body does for you every day. Maybe it's the strength in your arms when you hug someone you love, or how your smile lights up a room. Create little rituals that make you feel good in your skin. This could be taking an extra few minutes to moisturize after a shower, wearing clothes that make you feel comfortable and confident, or dancing alone in your room. These moments of self-care aren't selfish, they're essential. When it comes to intimacy, remember that what we see in movies or social media isn't real life. Your partner is with you because they're attracted to you, all of you. Try focusing on the sensations you feel rather than how you think you look. Notice the warmth of their touch, the comfort of their embrace, the connection you share. Here's something that really helped me. Write down 3 things you love about yourself every day. They don't have to be physical. Maybe it's your kindness, your laugh, or how you make others feel. Over time, you'll build a beautiful collection of reminders about your worth. And remember, confidence isn't about being perfect. It's about accepting yourself as you are while remaining open to growth. Be patient with yourself. Building self-love is a journey, not a destination, and you're already taking brave steps forward by acknowledging where you want to grow. Let's dive into mindfulness during intimacy, something that can truly transform your connection with your partner. I know it can feel challenging to stay present when your mind is racing with deadlines, to-do lists, and all of life's demands. But that's exactly why this practice is so valuable. Think of mindfulness as anchoring yourself in the moment using your senses. Start with something as simple as focusing on your breath. Take a few deep breaths together before any intimate moment. Feel the rise and fall of your chest, the warmth of your partner's skin, the gentle rhythm you create together. Creating the right environment can make a huge difference. Turn off those notifications, dim the lights, maybe light your favorite candle. These small actions signal to your brain that it's time to shift from the chaos of the day to this sacred space you're creating together. One powerful practice is maintaining eye contact with your partner. It might feel intense at first, but there's something magical about truly seeing and being seen. Notice the color of their eyes, the way they sparkle, the emotions they express. This simple connection can pull you right back to the present moment when your mind starts to wander. Try focusing on one sensation at a time. Maybe it's the texture of their hair between your fingers, or the sound of their breath, or the way their touch makes your skin tingle. When you catch your thoughts drifting to tomorrow's meeting or next week's plans, and they will drift, that's completely normal. Gently guide them back to the present moment. Remember, mindfulness isn't about having an empty mind. It's about choosing where to place your attention. Every time you bring your focus back to the present moment, you're strengthening that muscle of mindfulness. It's like training for any other skill. It gets easier with practice, and the rewards are absolutely worth the effort. Hey there, Soulful Ambassador. Your question about bringing spontaneity into long-term relationships really hits home. It's completely natural for routines to develop when we've been with someone for a while. But that doesn't mean we can't shake things up and keep that spark alive. Let me share some fun and practical ways to inject some excitement into your relationship. First off, try changing up the timing. If you usually get intimate at night, surprise your partner with a passionate morning wake-up call. Or how about turning an ordinary lunch break into an unexpected romantic rendezvous? Creating anticipation throughout the day can be incredibly powerful. Send a flirty text when they least expect it. Leave little love notes in their coat pocket or whisper something suggestive in their ear before heading out to work. These small gestures can build delicious tension that makes everything more exciting. Think outside the bedroom too. Take a dance class together, go on an adventure, or even just explore a new part of town. That shared excitement and adrenaline often translates into passionate energy later on. Sometimes simply changing your environment can make a huge difference. Maybe book a spontaneous weekend getaway or transform your living room into a cozy fort. Remember, spontaneity doesn't have to mean grand gestures. It could be as simple as wearing that outfit they love when they're not expecting it, suggesting a shower together, or creating a playlist of songs that remind you of special moments together. The key is to break those patterns in ways that feel authentic to your relationship. Most importantly, make it playful. Maybe create a jar of sexy dares you can pull from randomly, or take turns planning surprise date nights. When we approach intimacy with a sense of fun and adventure, it takes the pressure off and lets that natural spark reignite itself. I'm absolutely bubbling with excitement today because we're doing something really special. You know that episode we did in season 2 about intimacy? Episode 6? Well, let me tell you, my inbox has been overflowing with your incredible messages and stories. Your responses have touched my heart in ways I can't even describe. There's nothing that makes me happier than hearing how our conversations here have sparked real changes in your lives. One of our listeners wrote about how the episode completely transformed their approach to intimacy. They had this amazing breakthrough where they finally sat down with their partner and had that conversation they'd been putting off about their desires and needs. And you know what? It brought them closer than ever. That just fills my heart with so much joy. And then there's this incredible story about mindfulness. Someone shared how they never really understood its role in intimacy before, but after trying the practices we discussed, they're experiencing such beautiful moments of connection with their partner. It really shows how being present can make such a profound difference. I absolutely loved hearing from someone who took up the journaling practice we talked about for body confidence. They've been writing every day and they're already seeing shifts in how they view themselves. That's exactly what this journey is all about. Learning to embrace and celebrate ourselves exactly as we are. Oh, and get this. One couple turned the episode into a date night activity. They sat down together, made a list of new things they wanted to try, and they're so excited about this new chapter in their relationship. I mean, how amazing is that? The last comment I want to share really touched me. Someone wrote about how our discussion about intimate toys helped them feel more comfortable bringing up the topic with their partner. They were so nervous about it, but guess what? Their partner was completely open to the conversation. These are exactly the kinds of barriers we need to break down together. You know what else has been lighting up my inbox lately? So many of you have been sharing your incredible experiences with the Beducated courses I recommended. I absolutely love hearing how these resources have been transforming your intimate lives. And I'm especially thrilled that the discount links made it more accessible for so many of you. The feedback has been absolutely incredible, and I just have to share some of these beautiful stories with you. I got this amazing message from someone in New York City who said, "I didn't realize how much I didn't know about intimacy until I started these courses. My partner and I are having such deeper conversations now, and our connection has reached a whole new level. The courses were so practical and fun, exactly what we needed to spice things up." Then there was this wonderful note from Cape Town that really touched my heart. They shared how the courses completely changed their approach to confidence and communication. You know, it's not just about the physical aspects. It's about building that foundation of trust and openness, and I love how they've embraced that journey. Someone from Melbourne wrote in with the sweetest message about how Beducated has added so much fun and playfulness to their relationship. They said it's like they've discovered a whole new way of connecting with their partner. That's exactly what it's all about, finding those new dimensions of intimacy and joy together. I was particularly moved by a message from Lagos. They admitted being hesitant at first, which is totally normal, by the way, but decided to give it a try after hearing about it on the show. Now they're telling me they've never felt closer to their partner. The communication techniques especially helped them break down barriers they didn't even know they had. And this beautiful note from Edinburgh just made my day. They shared how learning at their own pace helped them finally feel confident about expressing their needs and desires. You know, that's something so many of us struggle with, and it's incredible to see how the right resources can help us find our voice. These stories just fill my heart with so much joy. It's amazing to see how many of you are taking these brave steps to invest in your relationships and personal growth. And what's even more beautiful is how you're all approaching it in your own unique ways. Some focusing on communication, others on confidence, and many discovering new aspects of intimacy they never explored before. Remember our episode about cutting ties with family members? Well, you all had so many thoughtful questions and powerful reactions that I just had to dedicate some time to address them properly. I've got to say, your responses to that episode were incredible. They showed me just how many of you are wrestling with these tough decisions about family relationships, and I want you to know that I hear you, I see you, and your feelings are completely valid. Today, we're going to work through some of your most pressing questions about dealing with guilt, managing relationships with other family members, and how to move forward after making these difficult choices. We'll also look at some of your amazing comments that honestly left me speechless in the best way possible. So grab your favorite comfort drink, find a cozy spot, and let's have this heart-to-heart together. Your stories matter, and I'm honored to be part of your journey toward healing and self-discovery. You know, one question that really struck a chord with me was about dealing with guilt when cutting ties with toxic family members. And let me tell you, that guilt, it's such a common feeling, but it doesn't mean you're doing anything wrong. Think about it. We grow up hearing phrases like blood is thicker than water and family is forever. Society has drilled these messages into our heads since childhood. No wonder we feel guilty when we choose a different path. But here's the thing. Just because something is common doesn't make it right for everyone. Let's talk about what that guilt really is. Often, it's not actually about missing the toxic relationship. It's about mourning the relationship we wished we had. We're grieving the fantasy of what could have been, and that's completely normal. Here's what I want you to remember. Choosing your peace isn't selfish. It's necessary. It's like being on an airplane. You have to put your own oxygen mask on first before you can help others. The same goes for your emotional well-being. You can't pour from an empty cup, and you definitely can't heal in the same environment that hurt you. When that guilt starts creeping in, try to reframe it. Instead of thinking, I'm a bad person for walking away, try, I'm brave for choosing my well being. Because that's exactly what you are, brave. It takes incredible courage to break free from toxic patterns, especially when those patterns come wrapped in family packaging. Remember, setting boundaries or cutting ties doesn't mean you don't love that person. It means you love yourself enough to create the space you need to heal and grow. And honestly, that's not just okay. It's absolutely necessary sometimes. Let's talk about reconciliation, because this is something many of you have asked about. Is it possible to rebuild bridges after cutting ties with toxic family members? Well, the answer isn't a simple yes or no. It's more like a it depends. The most important thing to understand is that true reconciliation requires genuine change from both parties. Just missing someone or feeling nostalgic isn't enough. Think of it like a broken vase. You can't just stick the pieces back together and expect it to hold water. You need the right conditions, the right tools, and most importantly, both pieces need to be ready to bond. What does real change look like? First, there needs to be accountability. Empty apologies or sweeping things under the rug won't cut it. The toxic family member needs to acknowledge their actions, understand their impact, and show consistent evidence of changed behavior. And when I say consistent, I mean over time, not just in the heat of the moment when they want to reconnect. One of the trickiest parts of setting boundaries with toxic family members is dealing with the flying monkeys. You know, those well-meaning relatives who keep trying to play peacemaker. Trust me, I get it. It can feel like you're constantly defending a decision that was already incredibly hard to make. So let's talk about how to handle this pressure with grace and firmness. The key is to respond, not react. When Aunt Sarah starts in with the "but family is everything" speech at Sunday dinner, take a deep breath. Remember, you don't need to justify your decision or get into the nitty-gritty details of why you've chosen to maintain distance. Instead, try using what I call the broken record technique. Have a simple, clear response ready to go. Something like, I appreciate your concern, but this is a personal decision I've made for my well-being. Then stick to it. No matter how many different ways they try to convince you, keep coming back to that same message. It's also helpful to remember that their pressure often comes from their own discomfort. Maybe your boundaries are making them question their own relationships. Maybe they're stuck in old patterns of keeping the peace at any cost. That's not your responsibility to fix. If the pressure becomes persistent, it's okay to set boundaries with these family members too. You might need to say something like, I understand you care, but continuing to bring this up is straining our relationship. I need you to respect my decision, even if you don't agree with it. And here's something important. You don't need everyone to understand your decision. Some people won't get it, and that's okay. Your job isn't to convince them. Your job is to protect your peace and maintain the boundaries that keep you healthy and whole. Let's talk about one of the most heart-wrenching aspects of setting boundaries: explaining these choices to our children. As parents, we want to protect our kids while also teaching them valuable life lessons about relationships and self-worth. When it comes to explaining family estrangement to children, honesty really is the best policy. But we need to tailor that honesty to their age and understanding. Think of it like building blocks. Start with the foundation they can handle and add more details as they mature. For younger kids, you might say something like, sometimes people have a hard time being kind and respectful to each other. And when that happens, it's okay to take a break from spending time with them. This helps them understand that it's not about being mean or holding grudges, but about taking care of ourselves. With older children, you can dive a bit deeper. You might explain that healthy relationships need boundaries, just like their favorite game has rules. When someone keeps breaking those rules, even after we've asked them to stop, sometimes we need to step back to stay safe and happy. This is also a golden opportunity to teach them about their own boundaries. Let them know they have the right to say no when something doesn't feel right, even with family members. Show them that love shouldn't hurt and that real family, whether related by blood or choice, supports and respects each other. Remember to keep the focus on actions rather than character. Instead of saying Grandpa is a bad person, try Grandpa's actions aren't safe for us right now. This helps children understand that it's the behavior we're distancing ourselves from, not necessarily the person. Most importantly, create space for their feelings. They might feel confused, sad, or even angry. Let them know that all these feelings are valid and that you're there to listen and support them through this change. Sometimes the most powerful thing we can do is simply sit with them and validate their emotions. Let's talk about reclaiming celebrations and creating new traditions after setting boundaries with family members. I know this can feel overwhelming at first. Those empty spaces where familiar faces used to be can feel especially heavy during holidays and special occasions. But here's the beautiful thing about creating new traditions. You get to design them exactly how you want them. Think of it as a blank canvas, ready for you to paint your own masterpiece of joy and connection. Maybe you've always wanted to spend Christmas morning at the beach, or celebrate your birthday with a solo adventure in a new city. Now you can. One of the most powerful ways to transform these occasions is to surround yourself with your chosen family. Those friends who feel like home, who celebrate your growth and honor your boundaries. These are the people who show up not out of obligation, but because they genuinely want to share in your joy. And if some days feel harder than others, that's completely normal. Healing isn't linear, and it's okay to feel both the relief of choosing peace and the sadness of what was lost. Give yourself permission to feel whatever comes up, knowing that with each celebration, you're creating new memories and stronger foundations for your well-being. I absolutely love hearing your responses to these episodes, and two comments really struck a chord with me. Millicent from Johannesburg shared how she had to pause the episode 3 times just to breathe. That part about family not meaning forever if it costs your peace. It hit hard, didn't it? I totally get it because I've been there too. Sometimes the most powerful truths are the ones that make us stop and catch our breath. And you know what? That's exactly what healing looks like sometimes. Taking those pauses, letting those realizations sink in, and giving ourselves permission to protect our peace. Millicent, I see you, and I'm so proud of you for recognizing that you deserve better. That's not just awareness, that's courage. Then there's Danny from Lagos, talking about how addressing toxic family dynamics exposed something raw and real. Let me tell you, when I first started talking about these topics, I felt that same vulnerability. But here's the thing about bravery. It's not about being fearless. It's about taking those steps forward, even when your knees are shaking. Danny, starting to set those boundaries is huge. It's like building a muscle you've never used before. It might feel uncomfortable at first, but it gets stronger with practice. And you're absolutely right. These conversations aren't easy, but they're necessary. They're part of breaking cycles and creating healthier patterns for ourselves. You know what amazes me about both these comments? The raw honesty, the willingness to look at difficult truths and say, yes, this is hard, but I'm ready to do this work. That's where real transformation begins. In those moments of recognition, in those brave decisions to choose differently. Let me share another powerful comment that came from Empress V in Nairobi. She called the episode a sermon, and you know what? Sometimes the truth does feel like that, like something that needs to be preached from the rooftops. When she talked about throwing her phone across the room at hearing, "Blood doesn't give anyone the right to disrespect you," I felt that energy. Sometimes the truth hits us so hard we literally need to physically react to it. And then there's Nick from Chicago, who said he was completely shook by our discussion about the guilt of cutting ties with parents. You know what I love about that response? The pure, unfiltered honesty of it. Because yes, these conversations should shake us up a little. They should make us question those deeply ingrained beliefs we've been carrying around. These comments remind me that we're all on this journey together. When you're dealing with family dynamics, it can feel so isolating, like you're the only one struggling with these decisions. But look at how many of us are working through the same things, asking the same questions, feeling the same emotions. I love how both Empress V and Nick touched on something really important, the permission to choose ourselves. It's funny how sometimes we need to hear someone else say it before we can truly believe it ourselves. But that's exactly why we need to keep having these conversations, keep sharing these stories, because every time someone speaks their truth, it gives someone else the courage to face theirs. And you know what really strikes me? The relief in their words, that feeling of finally being understood, of having your experience validated. That's powerful stuff. That's healing in action. I want to share one last comment that really touched my heart. It came from a listener in Sydney who said they cried through the entire episode when they heard that cutting ties isn't about hate, but about healing. That resonated deeply with them. And I get it. Sometimes we need someone else to put into words what we've been feeling all along. That's the thing about healing. it's not a straight line. Some days you'll feel strong and certain, and other days that guilt might creep back in. That's completely normal. You're not failing if you have moments of doubt. You're human, and you're dealing with some really complex emotions. To everyone out there wrestling with these decisions about family relationships, I want you to know that you're not alone. Your feelings are valid, your experiences are real, and most importantly, your peace matters. Remember, choosing yourself isn't selfish, it's necessary. Sometimes the bravest thing we can do is acknowledge when a relationship isn't serving us anymore, even when that relationship is with family. You're not breaking anything by setting boundaries. You're building something new, a life that honors your worth and your well-being. Keep sharing your stories, keep asking those tough questions, and keep choosing yourself. Because every time you honor your truth, you give someone else permission to honor theirs. I'm so grateful for this community and for all of you who trust me with your stories. Let's keep growing, healing, and supporting each other on this journey. Let's dive into some really juicy family dilemmas and unpopular opinions that you've been sharing with me. You know, family stuff is always complicated. It's like trying to untangle Christmas lights while blindfolded, right? But that's exactly why we need to talk about it. I've got some fascinating dilemmas from our community that I think many of you will relate to. We're talking about everything from financial boundaries with siblings to dealing with overly demanding parents. And let me tell you, some of these situations are spicier than my grandmother's secret recipe. What I love most about our community is how we can have these honest conversations about family dynamics without judgment. Because let's face it, sometimes the people we love the most can drive us absolutely crazy, and that's perfectly normal. So get comfortable, maybe grab a cup of tea or coffee, and let's work through these family puzzles together. Let's talk about this message I got from Anna in Los Angeles. And honestly, it's like something straight out of a TV drama. She's been financially supporting her brother for 5 years now. That's a long time to be someone's safety net. And get this, while he's supposedly been looking for the right job, he's been living it up on tropical beaches with his friends, all on her dime. You know what really gets me? When she confronted him about it, he pulled the classic family guilt card saying she owes him because they're related. I've got to be honest here. That's manipulation, plain and simple. Being family doesn't mean you get a lifetime pass to someone's bank account. Here's the thing about family obligations. They should go both ways. If someone's helping you out financially, the bare minimum you can do is respect their support and use it responsibly. What Anna's brother is doing isn't just about the money, it's a breach of trust, and that's much harder to repair than an empty bank account. I know some of you might be thinking, but he's family. You can't just cut him off. And you're right. These decisions are never easy. But sometimes the kindest thing you can do for someone is to stop enabling behavior that's harmful to both of you. Supporting someone who's genuinely trying to get back on their feet is one thing. But bankrolling someone's vacation fund while they take advantage of your kindness, that's something entirely different. If I were in Anna's shoes, I'd look at this as an opportunity for both of them to grow. She needs to learn to set firm boundaries, and her brother needs to learn that being family means respecting and appreciating each other, not treating someone like your personal ATM. Sometimes love means saying no, even when, especially when, it's difficult. We've got another situation here from Jackson in Johannesburg that really struck a chord with me. Daily phone calls demanding life updates, family-wide announcements if you miss one call, and surprise workplace visits. That's not showing love, that's showing control. You know, it's fascinating how some parents confuse constant contact with connection. Having your mom show up at your workplace because you didn't respond to a text immediately isn't just overwhelming. It's crossing some serious personal boundaries. It's like having someone constantly peering over your shoulder, watching your every move. Let's be real here. Loving someone doesn't mean owning their time. When parents struggle to see their adult children as independent individuals, it creates this suffocating dynamic where every unanswered call feels like a personal rejection to them. But here's the thing. You can deeply love your mother while still needing space to breathe and live your own life. I think the key here is to establish clear, consistent boundaries without severing the relationship entirely. Setting up a regular weekly call can actually lead to more meaningful conversations than daily check-ins that feel like interrogations. When you're not constantly reporting your every move, you have time to gather experiences worth sharing. Think about it like this. If you're constantly updating someone about your life, when do you actually get time to live it? It's like trying to narrate a story while you're still writing it. Sometimes you need to put the phone down and actually create those experiences worth talking about. Remember, setting boundaries isn't about pushing someone away. It's about creating a healthier space for your relationship to thrive. Sometimes the best way to maintain a close relationship with family is to have a little breathing room. After all, absence makes the heart grow fonder, not daily status reports and workplace ambushes. I recently received a message from Queen K in Toronto that really touched on something deep and complex. She's struggling with this weight of obligation versus personal well-being, and I know so many of you can relate to this. Here's the thing, providing materially for a child is the bare minimum of parenting. It's like building a house with a solid foundation, but filling it with emotional landmines. Just because someone fed and clothed you doesn't mean they get a lifetime pass for causing emotional harm. I've seen this struggle so many times. This belief that if our parents sacrificed for us, we somehow owe them unlimited access to our lives, even when that access hurts us. But let's flip this script for a moment. If a friend bought you expensive gifts, but consistently made you feel worthless, would you keep them in your life? Why do we hold different standards for family? The guilt you're feeling? That's real and it's valid. But it's also important to understand that guilt often shows up when we're finally doing something healthy for ourselves after years of putting others first. Your parents' sacrifices and their emotional abuse can coexist. Acknowledging one doesn't negate the other. Setting boundaries or even cutting ties doesn't erase the good things your parents did for you. It simply means you're choosing to protect your peace now. Think of it like this. If you're on an airplane and the oxygen masks drop, you're told to put yours on first before helping others. You can't pour from an empty cup, and you can't heal in the same environment that hurt you. Remember, choosing yourself isn't selfish. It's survival. You don't have to set yourself on fire to keep others warm, even if those others are your parents. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do, both for yourself and for them, is to create distance until healing can happen. This isn't about ingratitude. This is about acknowledging that while your parents may have given you life and material support, you're now responsible for living that life in a way that brings you peace and healing. That's not just your right. It's your responsibility to yourself. Now, I want to share something powerful that came from Mark in Nairobi. His message really struck me because it shows incredible self-awareness and courage. It's not easy to look in the mirror and recognize patterns that need changing, especially when it comes to family dynamics. You know what's beautiful about growth? It can start at any moment. That split second when you realize, hey, maybe I've been part of the problem. That's actually a gift. It's like suddenly seeing your reflection clearly for the first time, even if you don't particularly like what you see at first. When we're used to having things our way, especially with siblings, it's easy to fall into patterns of taking without giving. We might not even realize we're doing it. Maybe we've gotten comfortable with being the one who always needs help, always has an emergency, always requires attention, while barely asking about their lives or offering support in return. But here's the thing about family relationships. They're like plants. They need balanced care to grow. If you're always taking the water and never giving any, eventually things start to wither. The good news? Just like plants, relationships can flourish again with proper care and attention. Starting the healing process isn't about grand gestures. It's about consistent, genuine effort. Start small. Maybe send a text asking about their day without mentioning your own needs. Listen, really listen, when they speak. Show up for their important moments, even when it's inconvenient. The hardest part might be facing the hurt you've caused. But remember, acknowledging past mistakes doesn't define you. It refines you. Every relationship in your life is an opportunity to do better, to be better. And the fact that you're willing to see this and change, that's not weakness. That's tremendous strength. Change doesn't happen overnight, and there might be some skepticism from your siblings at first. That's natural. Trust takes time to rebuild. But keep showing up. Keep proving through actions that you're committed to being different. Every small step toward being more giving, more present, more supportive, it all adds up. I just read this really touching comment from Carla in New York that I think will resonate with many of you. Her words, really hit home about the struggle of being caught between cultural expectations and personal well being. It's a battle so many of us face, trying to honor our heritage while protecting our peace. Let's talk about cultural expectations for a moment. They're like invisible ropes that can either support us or bind us, sometimes doing both at the same time. Many of us grow up learning that family comes first, no matter what. We're taught that keeping the peace means keeping quiet, that sacrifice is just part of being a good daughter, son, sister, or brother. But here's the thing. Culture should be a warm embrace, not a stranglehold. When these expectations start suffocating us, when they become chains rather than roots, that's when we need to pause and reassess. It doesn't mean we're betraying our culture or disrespecting our elders. It means we're evolving it, adapting it for our well-being. You know what's beautiful about growth? It often happens in community. When one person shares their struggle, like Carla did, it creates a ripple effect. Suddenly, others feel less alone, more understood. They realize their inner conflict isn't a personal failure, but a shared experience. To those of you nodding along, feeling that tension between cultural loyalty and personal boundaries, I see you. Your struggle is valid. Remember, honoring your heritage and honoring yourself aren't mutually exclusive. You can respect where you come from while creating healthier patterns for where you're going. I just read this powerful comment from Faithful Dreamer that really struck a chord when they mentioned how that simple truth about blood not being a free pass to emotional harm brought them to tears. Well, that's exactly why we need to have these conversations. Sometimes just hearing someone else put words to what we're feeling can be incredibly healing. Speaking of healing, Leo from Melbourne shared something really beautiful about how this conversation helped bridge the gap with their sister. You know, it's one thing to talk about family dynamics, but it's another thing entirely to see these discussions create real change in people's lives. That's what gets me excited. When these conversations jump from our community here into real world healing. It takes incredible courage to look at family relationships honestly, to sit down with someone you love and say, hey, this isn't working, but I want us to work. Those conversations aren't easy, but they're worth having. They're the foundation of real, lasting change in our relationships. What I love about both these comments is how they show different stages of the journey. Faithful Dreamer is at that crucial moment of validation, of finally feeling seen in their struggle. And Leo shows us what can happen when we take that understanding and turn it into action, when we use these insights as a bridge to reconnect with family. Remember, setting boundaries and having honest conversations isn't about creating distance. It's about building stronger, healthier connections. It's about saying, I love you enough to want this relationship to be better. Sometimes the hardest conversations lead to the most beautiful transformations in our family relationships. You know, I can't help but feel incredibly grateful for all of you who've shared your stories. These conversations aren't easy, but they're so necessary for our growth and healing. The truth is, family relationships are complex, messy, and sometimes painful, but they can also be transformed with courage, boundaries, and honest communication. Whether you're setting boundaries with a parent, dealing with financial exploitation, or working to repair relationships you may have damaged, every step toward healthier relationships matters. Remember, choosing your peace isn't selfish. Setting boundaries isn't cruel. And sometimes, the most loving thing you can do, both for yourself and your family, is to be honest about what isn't working. We're all learning and growing together, and that's exactly what this community is about. Keep having those difficult conversations. Keep choosing growth over comfort. And most importantly, keep believing that you deserve healthy, respectful relationships, because you absolutely do. Let's dive deep into some pretty intense relationship and family dilemmas that I know many of you will relate to. You know how the holiday season can bring out both the best and most challenging moments in our relationships? Well, we've got some powerful stories to share about exactly that. From navigating tricky family dynamics to handling those delicate relationship conversations, we're covering it all. What I love most about our community is how we can come together, share our experiences, and learn from each other. Some of these stories might make you laugh, others might hit close to home, but I promise we'll explore each one with the kindness and understanding they deserve. We'll talk about setting healthy boundaries, managing expectations, and finding ways to communicate better with the people we love. Remember, there's no judgment here, just real talk and practical advice for real life situations. Let's dive into two particularly touching stories from our community that really highlight the challenges of intimate communication. These situations are so delicate because they involve our deepest vulnerabilities. First up, we have a message from Jenny in Chicago who tried implementing some communication techniques she learned from a relationship course. Instead of creating connection, her partner felt like she was trying to fix him. Oh, I feel this one deeply. It's so common to have our best intentions misinterpreted, especially when it comes to intimacy. The truth is, when we bring up these sensitive topics, our partners might feel inadequate or defensive, even when that's the last thing we're trying to do. Then there's Ethan from Toronto, who experienced something many of us fear. That moment when your partner tells you they're not in love anymore. Just saying those words out loud feels heavy, doesn't it? This came up during their own journey to rebuild intimacy, which makes it even more complex. Sometimes when we open up these conversations, we uncover truths we weren't prepared for. Here's what fascinates me about both these situations. They're really two sides of the same coin. Both stem from brave attempts to be more open and honest about intimacy, but they took such different turns. In Jenny's case, the conversation itself created distance, while for Ethan, the honesty revealed a distance that was already there. What really strikes me is how vulnerability plays such a huge role in these situations. When we talk about intimacy, we're not just talking about physical closeness. We're talking about our deepest fears, our need for acceptance, and our desire to be truly seen by another person. These conversations are never really just about intimacy. They're about trust, understanding, and feeling safe with another person. Let's talk about family drama and boundaries during the holidays because, wow, do these stories hit close to home? You know how family gatherings can sometimes feel like walking through an emotional minefield? That's exactly what some of our community members have been dealing with. There's a powerful story from Andy in Nairobi who made the tough decision to cut ties with a toxic aunt. Now, this wasn't just any aunt. This was someone who had paid for their first year of college. The family's response? They've completely excluded Andy from Christmas plans, calling them ungrateful. This really highlights how complicated family dynamics can get when money and obligations are involved. Then we have Tony from Houston, whose Christmas turned into quite the scene when his sister and brother-in-law decided to play amateur parenting critics during their stay. Imagine having guests in your home who constantly criticize how you raise your kids. Tony finally reached his breaking point on Christmas Eve and asked them to leave. And now he's apparently the one who ruined Christmas. And let's not forget Rosie from Atlanta, who's being called selfish for not wanting to host her cousin's entire family of 5 for 2 weeks during the holidays. The cousin's response? Refusing to bring the kids to Christmas at all. Talk about emotional manipulation. What these stories really show us is that setting boundaries with family isn't just about saying no. It's about dealing with the emotional fallout that follows. It's about standing your ground when people try to make you feel guilty for taking care of yourself. Sometimes the hardest part isn't setting the boundary itself, but dealing with the reactions of people who aren't used to hearing no. The holidays seem to have this magical way of amplifying family tensions, don't they? It's like all these unresolved issues and expectations get wrapped up with a bow and placed right under the Christmas tree. But here's the thing. Having boundaries doesn't make you a bad person. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself and your relationships is to set clear limits, even when it feels uncomfortable. Now let's dive into a situation that really highlights how financial decisions can shake the foundation of trust in a relationship. We've got this message from Lizzie in London that really got me thinking. Her boyfriend surprised her with what sounds like an amazing trip to Paris. Dream destination, right? But here's the twist that changes everything. He used their shared apartment deposit savings to fund it. There's something really beautiful about wanting to create magical moments with your partner. I mean, who wouldn't want to stroll along the Seine or share a croissant under the Eiffel Tower? But when those moments come at the cost of your shared financial goals and trust, we've got a serious problem on our hands. What makes this situation particularly tricky is the clash between romantic intentions and financial responsibility. When your partner says they want to make memories, it's coming from a place of love. But love isn't just about grand gestures. It's about respect, trust, and making decisions together, especially when it comes to shared money. This kind of situation goes way beyond just the money itself. It's about communication, respect for shared goals, and understanding that partnerships mean making big decisions together. When one person makes a unilateral decision about shared finances, it can feel like a breach of trust, no matter how well intentioned. Think about it. They weren't just saving for any old thing. This was money for their future home together. That's not just a savings account. That's a shared dream, a foundation they were building together. Using that money without discussion isn't just a financial decision. It's essentially making a choice about both their futures without consultation. The real challenge here isn't about choosing between a romantic trip and a practical investment. It's about finding ways to create those special moments while still respecting the boundaries and goals you've set together. Because at the end of the day, trust and transparency in how you handle money together might not be as exciting as a surprise trip to Paris, but they're absolutely essential for building a lasting relationship. Every year around the holidays, it seems like family gatherings become this perfect storm of expectations, pressure, and those oh so uncomfortable questions. I've been reading through your messages, and wow, do these stories hit close to home. Let me tell you about Bella from Sydney, whose holiday dinner turned into an impromptu blind date courtesy of her mom. Can we just take a moment to process that? Your mom inviting a complete stranger to what's supposed to be a family gathering, all because she's worried about your relationship status? That's not just crossing a line. That's doing a full Olympic hurdle over it. The thing about these family pressures is that they often come wrapped in what looks like care and concern. Why aren't you married yet? Might sound like genuine worry to them, but for us, it feels like we're somehow failing at life's imaginary timeline. Here's the truth, though. There is no timeline. Your life isn't a checklist that needs to be completed by certain deadlines. And then there's this whole expectation around holiday gatherings. I got this message from someone who was basically told they were destroying the spirit of Christmas because they couldn't host their entire extended family for 2 weeks. 2 weeks. Since when did setting completely reasonable boundaries become the equivalent of being Scrooge? The real kicker is how these situations make us question ourselves. We start wondering if maybe we are being dramatic or selfish or too sensitive. But here's what I want you to remember. Feeling overwhelmed by these pressures doesn't make you dramatic. Setting boundaries doesn't make you selfish. And having emotional reactions to emotional situations doesn't make you too sensitive. What we often forget is that it's okay to rewrite these holiday scripts. You don't have to play along with the surprise blind dates or the interrogations about your love life. You can create new traditions that actually respect your boundaries and make you feel good. Because isn't that what the holiday spirit is really supposed to be about? Let's talk about some holiday heartbreaks that really show how complicated gift giving and holiday plans can be. I received this message from Chris in Miami that really struck a chord. Imagine planning your whole holiday around someone, only to have them cancel at the last minute for family time. That kind of situation doesn't just ruin your Christmas. It makes you question your whole relationship. It's not just about the canceled plans. It's about feeling like you're second best, like you're the backup plan. And while family is important, relationships need that balance. Sometimes it feels like we're all trying to solve this impossible puzzle of keeping everyone happy during the holidays. Then there's this interesting situation from Melody in Paris about regifting. Now I have to be honest, this one got me a bit fired up. When someone regifts something you carefully picked out, it's not just about the item itself. It's about feeling like your thoughtfulness, your effort, your consideration just didn't matter enough to them to keep it. Holiday gift giving is this delicate dance of emotions, isn't it? We're not just exchanging objects, we're exchanging pieces of ourselves, showing people we care enough to think about what would make them happy. When that gets dismissed or taken for granted, it stings in a way that's hard to explain to someone who hasn't been there. What makes these situations even trickier is that there's often no clear right or wrong answer. Should you confront someone about regifting? Should you demand more holiday time from your partner? These aren't just simple yes or no questions. They're complicated discussions about values, priorities, and feelings. The reality is, sometimes the best gift we can give ourselves during the holidays is the permission to feel disappointed, to acknowledge when something hurts, and to be honest about what we need from our relationships. Because at the end of the day, the true spirit of gift giving isn't about the presents. It's about showing people they matter to us. After hearing all these stories today, I'm struck by how universal these experiences really are. Whether it's struggling with family boundaries, dealing with relationship challenges, or navigating holiday expectations, we're all trying our best to figure it out. Thank you for trusting me with your stories, and thank you for creating this beautiful, supportive community. Keep being brave, keep being honest, and most importantly, keep being soulful. I can't believe we've come to the end of another amazing episode. You know, our Hey Soulful Riley segment is always a highlight for me because it lets me connect with you all in such a genuine way. And wow, the stories you've been sharing, they're everything from tear-jerking to absolutely hilarious, and sometimes both at the same time. I'm constantly amazed by how open and honest you all are, and I want you to know that this is truly a safe space. Whether your story makes us laugh, cry, or scratch our heads in wonder, we're here for all of it. No judgment, just support and understanding. That's what makes our community so special. We're all on this journey together, learning from each other's experiences and growing stronger as a group. I've had to keep this segment shorter than I'd like because, let's be honest, we could probably talk about your incredible stories for hours. But don't worry, we'll pick up right where we left off in our next Hey Soulful Riley segment. Now, here's something exciting. I want to hear even more from you. If you've got a story burning in your heart or a question that's been on your mind, don't keep it to yourself. Send it in for our next Hey Soulful Riley episode. Your story could be exactly what another Soulful Ambassador needs to hear. Speaking of connecting, make sure you're following along on our social media journey. Drop by our Instagram, TikTok, Pinterest, or catch us on Threads. Use the hashtag #HeySoulfulRiley when you share your thoughts or stories. It helps our whole community find each other and join in the conversation. Remember, this podcast isn't just about me talking to you. It's about all of us sharing, growing, and supporting each other. Every comment, every message, every shared story adds something special to our soulful family. So don't be shy. Jump into the conversation and let your voice be heard. Trust me, there's nothing better than seeing our community come together and lift each other up. I've got something super exciting to share with you. We've just expanded our merch store with some amazing new items that I know you're going to love. We're talking cozy hoodies, perfect for those chill podcast listening sessions, stylish t-shirts that let you wear your soulful spirit proudly, and these absolutely gorgeous tote bags that I can't stop using myself. And that's not all. We've got travel mugs that'll keep your coffee warm during your morning commute, sweatshirts that feel like a warm hug, and so many other goodies that I just know you'll adore. Each piece is designed with our amazing community in mind, bringing that special Heartbeat Chronicles vibe to your everyday life. Ready to check it out? It's super easy to find. Just click the link in our episode description or head over to our Instagram. You can find us at heartbeat_chronicles or pop by my personal handle at _soulful_Riley. The merch store link is right there in our bio, waiting for you to discover your next favorite item. Trust me, these pieces aren't just merchandise. They're little reminders of our wonderful community that you can carry with you wherever you go. Now, let me tell you all about where you can find us, because I want to make sure you never miss a moment of our soulful conversations. We're literally everywhere you love to hang out online. If you're a social media butterfly, you can catch us on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Pinterest, and Threads. Just search for Heartbeat Chronicles Podcast and you'll find us there, sharing daily doses of inspiration and behind-the-scenes glimpses. But that's just the beginning. For all you podcast lovers out there, we've made sure you can tune in from wherever you prefer to get your audio fix. You can watch our full episodes on YouTube and Rumble, or listen on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Pods Network, and Buzzsprout. We're also available on Podcast Index, Podcast Addict, Podchaser, Pocket Casts, Deezer, Listen Notes, Player FM, Overcast, Castro, Castbox, Podfriend, Good Pods, and True Fans. The best part? Subscribing is completely free on all these platforms. Our episodes drop every Tuesday at 12 p.m. East African time. And I'll let you in on a little secret. Hitting that notification bell is the best way to make sure you never miss out on our weekly dose of soulful living. I love that we've made it super convenient for you to tune in wherever you are, whatever you're doing. Whether you're commuting, working out, or just relaxing at home, you can always access your weekly dose of soulful inspiration. And remember, each platform offers a slightly different experience, so feel free to explore and find what works best for you. That's what I call soulful living on your own terms. I want to take a moment to express my heartfelt thanks to all our incredible soulful ambassadors who take the time to like, comment, and engage with us. Your support means the world to me, and I see each and every one of you who's watching and listening right now. Your participation makes this community what it is, a space filled with warmth, understanding, and genuine connection. And speaking of our amazing community, I'm absolutely thrilled to welcome our newest soulful ambassadors joining us from Australia, Italy, France, and Ukraine. My heart is literally bursting with joy knowing that our family is growing across continents. Welcome home, beautiful souls. You found your place in our corner of the world where authenticity and genuine connection reign supreme. Can you believe how our community is expanding every single day? It's absolutely mind-blowing. Heartbeat Chronicles is truly going global. And it's all thanks to wonderful people like you who share our message of soulful living with their friends, family, and colleagues. If you're feeling the love and positive energy from our episodes, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who might need a little extra soul nurturing in their life. You know what makes me especially happy? Seeing how our conversations ripple out into the world, creating connections and touching lives in ways we never imagined. Every time one of you shares an episode with someone new, you're not just growing our community, you're spreading love, understanding, and positive energy across the globe. That's what I call making the world a more soulful place, one conversation at a time. You know, there's something incredibly powerful that I've learned from all our conversations and shared moments together, that growth isn't just a personal journey, it's something we achieve together, supporting and lifting each other up along the way. Your questions, your stories, and your vulnerable moments remind us that we're all connected in this beautiful journey of self-discovery and growth. When I think about our community and the incredible conversations we've had, I'm reminded that every question asked, every story shared, and every moment of connection adds another thread to the beautiful tapestry we're weaving together. Your courage to reach out, to share, and to connect inspires not just me, but everyone in our soulful family. Remember, your voice matters, your story matters, and your presence in this community makes it richer and more meaningful. Each time you engage, comment, or share your experiences, you're creating ripples of inspiration that touch lives in ways you might never know. Until next time, my beautiful, soulful ambassadors, keep asking those thought-provoking questions, keep sharing your authentic selves, and most importantly, keep spreading that soulful love wherever you go. Stay curious, stay connected, and as always, stay absolutely, wonderfully soulful. See you next Tuesday for another heartfelt conversation. Bye for now. Wow, what an incredible time we've had today. Connecting on a deeper level through your stories, questions, and personal experiences. I always feel so grateful for the opportunity to engage with you all in the #HeySoulfulRiley segment. Your vulnerability and openness make this community so special, and it's truly heartwarming to see how we support and uplift one another. Remember, our DMs are always open, so keep the conversations flowing, keep reaching out, and keep sharing your heart. You never know how your words might help someone else. Also share this episode or link to this podcast to friends, family, and even colleagues. You never know who might need this soulful loving. As always, stay soulful, stay connected, and don't forget to tune in next week for more heartfelt discussions. Until then, take care of yourselves and each other. See you soon, soulful ambassadors. Don't forget to hit that notification button.